Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump and his Democratic rival Kamala Harris have agreed to a debate on September the 10th. The former president says he wants two more matchups before November's election. North America correspondent Carrington Clark has more from Washington.
This was a rare media conference for the former president, who hasn't held one for months. For about an hour, he took questions from journalists. He advocated for his own policies and went on the attack against his competitor, Kamala Harris. He went after the Democrats for their policies in regards to immigration and the state of the economy. But perhaps the most newsworthy thing to come out of this media conference was Donald Trump's statement that he has now agreed to 3 presidential debates. Now, he has once again said that he will take part in an American ABC debate on September the 10th. That was originally agreed to when Joe Biden was still the Democratic candidate. Donald Trump then seemed to walk away from that commitment when Kamala Harris was elevated to the top of the Democratic ticket. But now he is saying that he will partake in that particular debate. But importantly, he says he wants a debate before that on conservative network Fox to take place on September the 4th. And then he wants a third debate on September the 24th on American network NBC. But he says it will be up to the Harris campaign to decide whether or not they agree to that sequence of events.
The other side has to agree to the terms. They may or may not agree. I don't know if they're going to agree. She hasn't done an interview. She can't do an interview. She's barely competent, and she can't do an interview. But I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight. Why is it that millions of people were allowed to come into our country from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions, insane asylums, even insane asylums? It's a mental institution on steroids. That's what it is.
It was easy to see this particular media conference as part of the campaign by the Republican campaign to put pressure on the Harris campaign to make her available for more interviews and for press conferences. She hasn't taken part in a sit-down interview since she was elevated to the position of the Democratic presidential candidate, or even when it was obvious she was the presumptive Democratic candidate. Instead, what Kamala Harris has held is this series of high-energy campaign rallies, both by herself and now with her running mate, Tim Walz. And although they seem to have reinvigorated the Democratic campaign, she is being criticized, mainly by Republicans, but also by journalists, for not making herself available for interviews and to answer questions. Kamala Harris has a history of stumbling during high-profile interviews, both when she ran for the presidency the first time back in the 2020 campaign, but also while she's been the vice president. At the moment, the polls would suggest that the strategy of just holding this series of rallies, most of which she's using a teleprompter for large parts of the particular rally, is working. The difference between the Republican vote and the Democratic vote, according to all major polls, has shrunk considerably, and this is now a competitive race. But is a person able to run to be the president of the United States, to be commander-in-chief, without sitting down in the usual way for interviews where their policy positions can be dissected and where they can answer difficult questions? We have not much time left in this particular campaign, about 90 days left. Kamala Harris might think that she doesn't need to do many interviews, but the question is whether or not she needs to do any at all. The debate will give Donald Trump an opportunity to put his own questions to her, but at this point the Harris campaign is only agreeing to that one previously agreed to debate on American ABC. Will others be agreed to? We wait to see, and I think a large part of that decision will be whether or not Kamala Harris thinks that she's actually winning in this campaign for president.